So in the last episode, we saw that Laravel start from this index.php file. So the first thing in this index.php is requiring this autoload. That's okay, but this app.php is very important. So let's open that, which is inside this bootstrap app.php. Okay, so here the first important thing is new up of this class. So let's open this class, and this is the entire Laravel application. That's why the name is application.php. And if you go at the top here, you can see this class actually extends container, and that's exactly what we need to learn in this episode. So let's open this class, and before checking out this class and what this class have, let me show you our implementation of container class. So I have this where is that? Yeah, I have this index.php, which is just a plain file. So let's create a PHP tag, and here I will say class, then container, and here I will say protected bindings, and this is just an empty array. Okay, then create a function called bind, and this bind function accepts two parameters. One is the name and other is a callable. So callable, and we call it resolver. Then what we are going to say, this dot bindings, actually we are talking about this variable, this dot binding, and the key is actually name and its value is resolver. Then I'm going to create another function, and this function is make, which is just going to accept one parameter, which is name, and then I'm just returning this bindings and get the element with the name, whatever we are passing here, and that's it. So this simple container class is having three important things: binding variable, bind function, make function. So let's create a new of this class. So new container, then I will say var dump, or let's use print r, and container. Before that, let me bind something. So I will say container bind, and here I will say game, and because we said that on this bind function we need to use the callable, that means a function, or we call it closure. So let's return football. So now we are going to resolve this. So how we can resolve? Just say container make, again this make function, and pass game. So let's close this line, and now let's go to the Chrome test.app, and we are getting just an empty object. So why we are getting empty object? Let's see. Okay, so here on this make class we need to actually run that function. So now if I go, you can see we get the football, and if I change it to football 1 or whatever it is, so yes, we can see where football 1 is there. This means we can bind something to container, and we can resolve, or we can get something from container. And actually this bindings variable is all about the container. So what container is? So container is just a bindings or an array in which you can put some object. Whenever you need it, you can get that. So now let's go and see the Laravel implementation of this container. So here we have the container. From this application class, we know that this application extend container, and the container class is there. And now you can see bindings and method bindings, and some of the other variables are here. So this is actual implementation of container in Laravel. Obviously there has to be some bind class. So if I see, yeah, we have the bind class, and at the bottom you can see this binding, they are calling abstract, we call it name. So then we are passing compact with concrete and share. So let me show you where these things are available. So what I'm going to do in this web.php, I will diadump app. So let's create server. Yeah, it's already running. So now here, if I refresh, you can see we are having list of all these things which this application class have. And no surprise, we have this bindings, resolved, method bindings, which we get here. So at the top we can see we have resolved bindings, method bindings. Currently this Laravel bind 41 items inside this binding, or we can say inside the service container. So that's cool, but how we can add some items to container, or how we can get items from the container? It's very easy. Again, go to web.php, and if you want to add item inside this container, just like we have the syntax here, we can use same syntax here. So app bind game and closure, then return football. Super easy. So last time it was 41. So if I refresh, now you can see we have a 42 bindings. This means at the bottom we can see our game binding, which is having array of concrete and shared. Concrete is just the closure we have passed inside that app binding. So this is how you can add something inside the container, or we call it service container of Laravel. But what's the use of these bindings? Why not we can just say inside an array, and we call array key as game and value as football. What's the use of this binding? So let's just see one important thing, how we can get something from the container. So we need to say make, and inside the make I will say game. So I think you know what's going to happen. It will return football. So yeah, we have this football. That's cool. But instead of just a string, why not pass a class? So create a new game class. So I will create a class called game. It's just an empty class, nothing is there. So what's going to happen? Yeah, it has the class of game. So you can see whenever we want to use a new class, every time we do new of game, in all of your project you need to do this every time. So by using this bindings, you have just implemented new game one time, and then everywhere else on your application you just use app make game. So if you want to change something here, that will affect everywhere all over your project. Not only this, suppose this game class has some dependency. So I'm going to create a constructor. So construct, and this time it has a dependency of football class. So this time I will say football is equal to football. Okay, so yeah, you can see it's saying you need to pass some kind of football class. So this time inside game, new game, we need to say new football, but we know there is no football class, so we get error. That's the same error, class football not found. Let's quickly create that class. So football is an empty class similarly. Okay, and now this time if I go refresh, we get this class which depends upon this football class. So now again you can see how much easy, whenever you want to change this football to another game or some another kind of dependency, you just change at one place, and because we are using app make game, it will affect everywhere. But now a new problem arises. What if this football class depends upon something else? So again I create construct, and stadium is a new class. So this stadium is equal to stadium, and we know, yeah, we need to pass new stadium, and this class is not there, so let's create a stadium class. And because we are doing everything correct, it will resolve it and it will give you the exact implementation of this game class. Game require football, football require stadium, but what if stadium also requires something? So now you can see this is becoming more complex and hard to manage. Now, because we are using service container, because we are on Laravel, we don't need to worry about all these things because everything is taken care by Laravel. So even if I comment this out, you know, service container is very smart and it know that this game depends upon this football. So it will find the football class. So when it get the football class, it will say that, okay, football class depends upon the stadium, and in that way it will inject every dependencies on your class. And this happens because of PHP reflection class. So if you search for PHP reflection class, what this reflection class will do, it just give you exact information about the class. So how container know that this game requires something or require what thing? So that's because of this PHP reflection class. It will get whatever the dependencies we have, then it will find that dependency and so on. So because everything is taken care by container, even if we are not binding anything, we are just saying resolve or make game, we can also use resolve function. So we can say resolve game, and by doing this we don't have to bind anything, it will bind everything by its own. And now if I go refresh this page, you can see the same implementation is there, and that's because of this service container. So you saw that just by doing this container make, bind and bindings kind of things, we are having so much flexibility on our code that we can easily move along and create a highly scalable project. Not only this, there is one more thing. If you want to create an instance every time you want to use some class, so like you can say app instance and you will say game and function. I will just going to return a closure, so I will say instance, and this time I will show you app. And if I do this time, instead of bindings we have a new instance for 27 instance, and this is just the closure. So it is some kind of concrete implementation of some class, and bindings is just a more flexible kind of thing. So all these things, resolving, bindings, instances are inside service container. So last thing I'm going to show you is let's remove everything from here. So here I will say app bind, and this time I will just create random and giving a closure. Here let's return str random. So we are having a random string, and then die-dump app make, and inside that and say random. So instead of die-dump I will just use dump. Why? Because I want to use another implementation or another resolving thing for random. So if I go refresh this page, so you can see we have two different random string. So every time I refresh we get two different random string. Why? Because every time we are calling this app make, it will execute this function. But if you want to execute it only one time and use it on your project, you just need to say singleton. Singleton means it's just going to run one time, it will remember the result, and then whenever you call, whenever you resolve your function or your binding, it will give exact same thing. So to resolve, but we will get same string for both of the resolves. So that's because of this singleton, and this is just the difference between binding and singleton. So I think we get the idea of what is container. Container is just a list of all the bindings in just a single array called bindings inside this container class. Now we know that container is a array of items where we can put something, we can get something wherever you want, whenever we want, and that's how Laravel make things so much easy for us. So we will meet in the next episode. Till then, goodbye.